Flashback to my sophomore year in high school. It's Friday at 7 a.m. and I'm waking up for volleyball practice before heading off to work at 10. When basketball season began, I was able to sleep in until 9 before going to work and then heading to the school around 3 to prepare for the night's game. This obviously is not the typical Friday schedule for high school students, but my school wasn't typical because it had implemented the 4-day school week, something that has helped schools save money, increase test scores, and improve attendance. And isn't this something that all schools would like to see happen? With federal and state funding being cut and a small student population, my school was simply running out of money. They were doing everything they could to cut costs and keep the doors open. However, this is a problem that schools are still facing today. And according to a report published by the Center on Budget and Policy Issues, Kansas schools received $745 less in funding per student for the 2012-2013 school year than they did in 2008. With cuts like this, schools have to find ways to pinch their pennies. And the 4-day school week allows schools to do just that by saving money on fuel, water, heating and cooling costs, food, and just general wear and tear on the buildings. By being in the school just one day less per week, savings started to add up. And saving money in this fashion seems to be much more practical and less harmful than cutting teachers, programs, and organizations. The 4-day school week also allows schools to raise their test scores and improve student and teacher attendance. Maureen Downey reports in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that 4-day school weeks have helped students raise math scores by up to 7%. And they believe that this trend is occurring because students and teachers alike have higher level of attendance. Appointments are able to be scheduled on the day off, and teachers are spending less time planning during the school day because they have an extra day to spend planning. This table, taken from a study published in 2008 by Barbara Leaseff, shows how parents felt about the 4-day school week at the end of the first and second year of it being implemented. After the first year, 70% of parents liked that appointments could be scheduled on Fridays, and 72% saw the benefit after the second year. This tells us that parents were using their off day to schedule appointments for their children, and thus children were in school more often. 4-day school weeks, however, do not come with everything just perfect. They have their drawbacks. The biggest concerns that were raised in my community, including finding childcare for elementary students and how long the days would be. With the 4-day week in place, parents would have to find childcare for their kids on the 5th day. But since high school kids are not in school either, there would be a large number of qualified students able to babysit for these parents. The long days were also a concern. Some students would spend about 11 hours in school or on a bus riding to school because of the long days. There's no good way around this problem other than shortening bus routes, but this in turn eliminates savings because more fuel is used on a larger number of buses and more bus drivers might even have to be hired. From the same table published in 2008, only 13% of parents after the first year and 12% after the second year were concerned about how long the days were for their students. This says that parents were not seeing the long days as being too long for their kids to handle. In the end, it really comes down to looking at the pros and cons and deciding whether or not the advantages outweigh the disadvantages within your community. 4-day school weeks are very positive for many districts because of the savings that they provide, how they raise test scores, and because of how they improve attendance. With the cuts that schools are facing today, schools are forced to explore a variety of options to help them operate within the budgets they're given. And one of the most viable options is the 4-day school week. There are disadvantages for a 4-day school week, just like any other option schools have. But I truly feel that the advantages are much greater than the disadvantages. Plus, who doesn't want a 3-day weekend every week? Stop.